Good morning, Outward Academy Shafton, and welcome back to the school building. I'm Mrs. Neild, Head of Science, and I'm here this week to talk to you about British Science Week. The theme of British Science Week this year is called Innovating for the Future. But what does that mean? So I'm going to show you a video now of a Rube Goldberg machine in action, and I'd like you to think of how you can use this idea of a Rube Goldberg machine to innovate for the future. A Rube Goldberg machine is a chain reaction type machine or contraption designed to perform a simple task in an indirect or overly complicated way. It's a string of moments of perfect harmony eked out from what could so easily have been chaos. It's through the trials and failures and errors of inventions such as these that have allowed innovation of many of the technologies we use today, your mobile phone being one of them. So what does innovating for the future actually mean? Science and technology have the power to do many things, and changing the future and the ways in which we live and the world around us is one of them. We're privileged to be living in a time where science and technology can assist us, make our lives easier, and rethink the ways we go about our daily lives. Throughout British Science Week, various activities are going to be taking place. Years 7 to 9 are going to be taking part in a practical lesson on innovating for sustainability. British Science Week are also running a poster competition that you can enter via Google Classroom. And I'm going to talk you through this poster competition now. So, it's an annual British Science Week poster competition. You can make your poster about whatever version of innovating the future you like and enter the UK-wide competition with a chance to win lots of prizes. So what we want to do is investigate and imagine innovating for the future and everything that makes it special. British Science Week have come up with a few ideas to help you get started. So you could think about your own innovation, something you might want to invent. Feeling futuristic and global. What new ideas, inventions, products or services have we never had before that you think would make the world a better place? What everyday innovations have been easily overlooked? What do you use every day? And how would your life be without those innovations and inventions? So once you've done your research, it's time to get creative. Your poster must be A3 or A4 in size. You should take a photo of it and upload it to Google Classroom. You can use pop-up pictures, pull-out tabs, materials like paint, drawing pencils, crayons, paper, anything you want really. And then submit it on Google Classroom. The winning posters will be entered into British Science Week competition, and they have a chance to win books about inspirational figures, adventure books, plantlet culture kits, creativity packs, magazine subscriptions, giant colouring posters, amongst many, many more. And what the judges are going to be looking for is a creativity in your approach, the content is clear and accurate, and you've communicated it effectively. As well as the poster competition, we'll be having lots of little ideas and experiments that you can have a go at home. So look out on our Twitter page for those at OAS_science. The science staff will also be dressing up for the occasion on Friday to mark the end of Science Week. So watch out for that as well. So what barriers might there be for innovating for the future at this moment in time? I'm just going to give you a few seconds just to have a think or a chat with amongst your forum members. What might be stopping some innovations for the future right now at this point in history? So I hope you've all had a good think. The main one that I came up with at this point in history that might be a barrier towards innovation is COVID-19. So with the lockdowns closing some businesses working in innovation, as well as scientists working towards helping to get the virus under control instead of their own innovative fields, some innovations for the future may have had to have been put on hold. And that's why it's extremely important that we ourselves help the efforts in controlling this virus and try to get it back to some normality. The wearing of face coverings is a big part of this. And we're going to just have a little bit of a look at how face coverings work and why they work and why it's important that if we can wear one, we do wear one. The New York Times has developed a very good animation to explain how face coverings work, and I'm going to demonstrate it to you now. So face coverings can come in all different shapes, sizes, styles, materials. We know that an N95 respirator, which is what is being worn here, is the gold standard, and that's what we safeguard so that medical professionals can have them. But cotton masks and cotton face coverings are likely what you guys are all wearing right now and what lots of your teachers are wearing and everybody that's wearing when going into shops, etc. So masks work and face coverings work by having layers of fibres that are able to capture large respiratory droplets and smaller airborne particles known as aerosols. Now, these large respiratory droplets and aerosols can carry the coronavirus, and as a general rule, most of the time, that's what is carrying the coronavirus. Most of the time, it won't be the actual coronavirus particle that gets to you and infects you. It will be one of these aerosol particles or a respiratory particle. Think of it almost like a bubble and the coronavirus is that small, it's inside that bubble. And how masks and face coverings work is by a process known as filtration. And the material's ability to trap particles is called its filtration efficiency. Now, I've already said the N95 is the gold standard and the most effective, but just because something else is more effective doesn't make any other face covering redundant. Cotton masks, and similar to cotton masks, are really useful and can eliminate quite a lot of coronavirus potential particles from getting to other people. So wearing a mask and wearing a face covering is really important to protect others rather than protecting ourselves. And there are plenty of people that aren't able to wear face coverings for lots of different reasons, and we need to respect the fact that they aren't able to wear them and wear our own to protect those people. So let's have a look into how a cotton mask would work and how the filtration works. So what I've done is I've just zoomed in on this woman's mask, and we're seeing how all the fibres are woven into the mask. And we've got 3 different layers of particles here. So we've got large respiratory droplets, we've got the aerosol particles, which are a medium size, and we've got a small size particle, which would be about the size of a coronavirus particle itself. So the coronavirus normally travels inside one of these aerosols or one of these large respiratory droplets. Now, what's being simulated here is what's happening just when we're talking, when we're breathing. Obviously, when we're coughing, etc., that happens, but it's not just coughing and sneezing that can spread viruses like coronavirus. Just talking, just breathing will create an airflow for these particles to move. So larger particles, the respiratory droplets, are the easiest to trap. What happens is they slam straight into the fibres and get stuck when the airstream brings them within touching distance, or when their momentum causes them to veer off course. And we'll keep going through. You can see how these larger ones are getting stuck on the layers of cotton in the face covering. The smallest particles are bounced around by air molecules in a random zigzag pattern, which starts to increase the time that they are in their face covering for. And so the longer they're there, the more likely they are to encounter one of the fibres and get trapped. So you can see how some of the smaller particles are getting trapped now. It's the medium-sized particles, these aerosol particles, that are hardest to filter. And they evade capture because they start to follow the airflow and they twist and turn around the fibres. And that's where an N95 mask is more effective, because the fibres of an N95 mask are made of a synthetic material which has an electrostatic charge. That means that they attract the particles of all sizes. So you can see on this mask how pretty much all of the particles are getting filtered out. So fibres aren't actually the only factor in filtration. Lots of different face coverings vary in their filtration efficiency depending on the fibres that they're made of, depending on how they fit, depending on how many layers they have, etc. So a fully fitting and properly fitting mask is really important as well. So the fit should be quite tight to your face. So loose fitting masks, or those that are pressed against things like facial hair, can allow aerosols to leak. So if it's loose here or here or here, the aerosols can leak out, and therefore it's stopped the efficiency of the mask. The mask is still doing something, but it's not as effective as it could have been. And then a good mask will have a large surface area, and it might be tight around the edges, but it gives you space to breathe through your nostrils and your mouth. You will be able to breathe in a mask that fits correctly. And it creates a larger breathing zone where the particles have a chance to be caught. Like, that's the zone that the mask is working in. Some masks have valves that make it easier for us to exhale that look a little bit like this. But if you do have a face covering that's got a filter like this, make sure you are replacing the filter. If you've got a valve in your mask and there's no filter inside it, it's not doing anything effectively. You might as well not be wearing a mask. You need to have the filters in place in order to make sure it's trapping the aerosols that you breathe out. So we know that a well-fitting N95 is the gold standard. However, they are safeguarded for medical professionals who, you'll probably agree, need them more than we do to protect each other, to protect their patients and protect themselves. But regardless of whether we can get our hands on an N95 mask, any kind of face covering, like if you look around everybody that's wearing one today, if we all wear one, or everyone that can wear one wears one, the combined filtration efficiency increases. So let's say that the mask that you're wearing filters half the particles you exhale. An N95 filters 95% of the particles. That's why it's called an N95. Imagine this mask that you're wearing only filters out half the particles you exhale. That's still really good at stopping the spread of a virus like coronavirus, because the particles that escape start to disperse through the air and are further diluted. As you can see, there's a bigger concentration nearer to her and a lower concentration further away of the particles. So that's why it's really important to keep that distance between each other, even if we're wearing face coverings. And the particles that eventually reach someone else's mask get filtered again, reducing the number that get through. So even though masks are designed to protect others, they do have a slight effect at protecting you as well. And there's only a few particles that have managed to get through from that person's mask. Without either of them wearing masks, that would be a lot more. If only one of them was wearing a mask, it would be useful, but not as useful as both of them wearing a mask. So if you can wear a mask, we know there's plenty of people that can't for various reasons, but if you can, you'll be helping to protect others and protect those that can't wear a mask. So it's become clear that cloth masks, even though they're not as effective as N95s, are still really effective at reducing transmission. Something is better than nothing. So good ventilation. So I'm afraid, guys, the windows will have to stay open, because the more ventilation we have, the more those particles that have managed to filter out will be able to get out into the open air. And social distancing reduce the risk of transmission. So if everybody wears a face covering that can wear a face covering and keeps their distance, the collective benefit will go up and hopefully we'll be back to normality sooner rather than later. So it's really important that we wear our face masks properly, that we've got them correctly over our nose, correctly over our ears. They're not just dangling under our chins. That's not wearing a face covering. You might as well not have it on you at all. It's also really important that if you have a reusable face covering, that you wash it regularly. Those particles, those aerosols that get stuck within your face covering will still be there, and it's really important that we make sure we handle them with clean hands. So we've used sanitizer before we take them on and off, and that we're also washing them regularly. So why are face coverings so important? Many people, especially young people like yourselves, are asymptomatic for the virus. That means that you don't have any symptoms. That's one of the reasons why we now have the testing in school, to try and identify those of you that are asymptomatic. Because you could be carrying the virus and not know it. If you're asymptomatic, you are still able to pass the virus on to others. You might not be coughing and sneezing, but just breathing and talking and touching surfaces can cause the virus to spread. That's because the virus can live on all sorts of surfaces. It can live on your clothes, your skin, your school bags, etc. You could take that virus home with you. You could pass it on to someone else who could take it home with them. Eventually, as more people take it to work, school, home, it becomes likely that somebody vulnerable might become infected. So why are face coverings so important? That means that there are fewer chances for the virus to find surfaces to be on if you wear a face covering properly. That will stop the spread of the virus right then and there, and it might even save a vulnerable person's life, even if you do not know that person. Let's all be face covering superheroes. Thank you very much for listening to my assembly today, Outward Academy Shafton. Remember that it is British Science Week. Have a look out on our Twitter for everything that we might be doing and what's going on. And I look forward to seeing all of your faces smiling behind your face coverings today if you're able to wear one.